and we should be live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another weekly episode of Block Chat. Now, today is a bit different as a format. As you can see, it's just me presenting, and there's no Makram, which is quite strange, honestly, because Makram is a workaholic, and he's on vacation. He's enjoying a time off in Bali with his family, so hope he's having a great time, even though he's still replying to my messages on Slack. So sorry if I'm bothering you while you're a bit off and having a good time and spending a quality time with your family. So a lot has happened since last week, I believe, especially in last month. I see that we are growing as a project overall, and this is great to see. It's great to see the work that has been done in the past, kind of manifesting as well. Our community is becoming stronger as well, and it's built on pillars or on foundations that were set way back, basically since the very start of Blocksquare. When there was 50 people in our Telegram, we still see those sometimes present in the conversations, and they are an immense resource to everybody who's joining in and just kind of starting to discover what Blocksquare is. I chose to present from this position today because I wanted to showcase a couple of things that we achieved in the past. This big award here that's kind of turned around because I guess mirroring, that's how it works, of the camera. But this is essentially an award that we won in 2019. In the so-called Crypto Valley in Zug. There was a competition that was organized, blockchain for real estate, basically. And we were lucky enough to get through, I think there were 4 rounds of presentations from 150 companies. We were then able to present on the big stage in the final day on the CV Summit. There was 1,000 people in front of me. When I was doing that pitch, I was really nervous, but it went more better than I actually expected. And in the end, we were able to take the first prize home. And honestly, it was a very hard time. It was a bear market. It was 2019. All the work we did throughout 2018 was kind of being forgotten in a way. Real estate companies didn't want to hear about blockchain and tokenization at all. So every pilot that was lined up after the first one that we did was kind of just went into nothing. And this award basically allowed us to continue to keep on pushing. There were, as a team, as co-founders, we were heavily invested in the project. And this kind of gave us an additional boost, I would say, and kind of saved us. I would even saved us from a cash flow, cash burn perspective. Added to this, we won some other awards here. Here on the red one, this is an accelerator in Geneva that we went through, and this is kind of a final pitching after 3 months of the accelerator. Really thankful for everybody who kind of were discovering real estate tokenization with us at the time, and helping us shape a business model that's scalable, that serves the market, and the business model that we have today came through that process. And last but not least, the blue one, it's an award that was given by through a event called German Tech, basically sponsored by one of the largest asset managers in Germany, Union Investment, and this is an award that I hold also dear because it's It's the kind of a traditional finance and real estate prop tech type of award that kind of gave recognition to a Web3 emerging new tech, new approach type of business, and really proud of it. So today, my scope of today is to basically get everybody who just joined in, started collaborating with us, started discovering Blocksquare and Ocean Point to kind of be able to see the big picture, to see the work done so far, to get as much information possible packed into 30, maybe 40 minutes. I'll try to keep it in that timing. So thank you for watching us, and hope this is going to be valuable for everybody here. So Blocksquare as a company, it's a tech company that we established 3 co-founders and in 2018. It's a company that is mainly funded through the funding provided by the 3 co-founders, and its mission is to maintain and build and develop a tokenization infrastructure purposely built for real estate assets. This falls in the context of real-world asset tokenization, which is a wider scope, and real estate as an asset class has so many things that are unique to it, and at the same time, it's the largest asset class in the world, and one of the most liquid ones. So we see tokenization as being right there to solve many of the challenges that can't be solved with traditional financing solutions. What does it mean that we are an infrastructure provider, and why is it even important? So as a company, our vision is to power hundreds of marketplaces. So imagine an infrastructure that's built out of a certain components, and we can we can look into those a bit later on. And the market in terms of real estate is very fragmented. So you might have a company that's really specialized in a certain type of real estate investments or real estate assets in a certain jurisdiction or even a certain city. But if they go outside of that region, they don't have anything. They can't bring any assets, any deals, because they don't have that access, those connections. And what we see is that these marketplaces will be regionally bound, but will become powerful brands in those regions. And our role here is to enable these real estate entrepreneurs that have years or decades of experience. It might range from solopreneurs to big companies, to tap into Web3 by using an established, verified, trustworthy infrastructure that's provided by Blocksquare. Our team currently is growing. Here on this slide, we have, for instance, Makram, who you might know from Block Chats. We have Dite, who's our head of DeFi. We have Victor and Peter, my co-founders. Victor is the CTO and Peter is the Chief Compliance Officer. We have Julia, our CMO, and then we have our tech team, brilliant people like David, Simon, Marco, Matej, who are covering the smart contract development, the Web3 components like subgraphs, etc., the front end, the UX, UI design part of things, and the back end. And here to this team, we also add a partnership that we have with Victor's IT development company, Medius, which supports in Blocksquare with everything that is usually required when you're building a world-class product that aims to serve customers and companies in the end, partners on a global scale. Now, add to this a couple of mentors that have deep expertise in either blockchain, finance, and real estate, with different partnerships, collaborations that we did in the past with various companies. I think this becomes like a very powerful network and of additional knowledge. Here, I a lot of times quote the reason why tokenizing real estate is something that's really important. So if we look at macroeconomic of commercial real estate, what we have is we see that there's 700 billion, more or less, being invested into commercial real estate on a yearly basis. That's quite a lot of money, right? And the bad side of it is that 80% of this capital is deployed only into 60 cities. So all the other areas or regions or cities around the world are left with 20%. And if you go a bit deeper and you say, okay, what about 90% of the capital? You don't exceed the number of 120 cities. But there's potentially going to be, tens of thousands of cities in the future. And right now, there's thousands of cities that fall outside of this already, which means that there's potential for thousands of marketplaces to emerge out of it to serve the underserved, financially underserved real estate market in that region. How? By connecting the asset and the asset owners directly with a kind of crowd-funded or crowdsourced or a mass of investors that want to invest regionally but don't have the access or have a hard time doing so because it's not digital. And with tokenization, we can digitize that process, make it transparent, and make it available to basically anyone with an internet connection. And here we see that tokenization basically is going to change everything. It's going to change how we invest in real estate. It's going to transition people from seeing that holding direct title over holding a token that represents a stake in that asset, the benefits of diversification, the benefits of added liquidity and liquidity potential, etc. I think those things will create a world where basically you're able to transact hundreds of times within the same minute, the same property even. And this liquidity will start flowing more and more as Web3 and DeFi as an environment grows in value. Why? Because that value will probably seek investments into real world assets through the purchase of tokens rather than going outside of that environment. And to confirm this, there's many people in high up places that are seeing tokenization as something that's emerging. What we see is that the next big thing in real estate is thousands of marketplaces that will facilitate billions of real estate value to be transacted amongst millions of users at the end in different jurisdictions. And we here as Blocksquare, we can facilitate that to start happening very fast. Our infrastructure has been built and tested. It's being deployed commercially as we speak as well. And we can just deploy marketplace in a very fast manner, very structured, very defined upfront how things happen. All the main issues from technical perspective are solved. Some legal issues are solved as well. Some legal issues need to be localized a bit, but the important part is that we can execute today with the transfer of real estate value. And the market that we're kind of serving has obviously challenges here. And these challenges are sometimes really hard to grasp for somebody. So with this slide, we kind of wanted to showcase the whole spectrum of challenges based on the persona or the user type. So on the center part, we see marketplaces that are required so that there's a safe environment for both investors and users on one side and token issuers, the real estate owners on the other side, to be able to connect. And these marketplaces are brands that we help and we target and we partner with to deliver for them to run on our infrastructure. And here the issuers receive obviously a solution that is very well structured, and they basically get a marketplace with an active community of investors that might be interested in the deals that they're bringing, while a marketplace serves as the due diligence player in between the three, that kind of ensures that the asset itself is of a certain quality. Why? Because they want to serve investors to come back to them, to the deals that they bring, and create a trustworthy relationship with them. Now, the solution for these issues, how we kind of define it, is an engine that can power this new real estate market. This infrastructure was split it into four main components. Here we have a marketplace platform, or marketplaces platform, through which basically any company can run their own marketplace under their own brand. So it's a white label type of solution. It enables people to, onboard investors. It enables the marketplace operator to add new deals, to organize offerings, to open up OTC type of secondary market, peer-to-peer trading, and distribute revenues, etc. To make this possible, there's a blockchain part of it, which is our tokenization protocol, and it's an engine built on Ethereum and has a couple smart contracts that kind of make sure that the tokens are always structured in the same way, so it's templated, if you will, and that anybody who wants to purchase those tokens needs to go through KYC through a marketplace and disclose their personal information due to AML regulation with the marketplace operator. And that kind of creates a safe, compliant infrastructure for anybody to run a marketplace. And here we see that there's an additional requirement. Why? Because if you see all those marketplaces around, each of them has a certain amount of users, that those marketplaces are great for the purpose they are serving, but when it comes to liquidity, they might become a bit underserved still. So to solve the issue of liquidity, we created this liquidity engine that we call Ocean Point, and we run Ocean Point through a structure, a DAO structure of ownership. And then from those three main components, we have many ancillary services that we can build up. That might be APIs, that might be valuation models, that might be risk frameworks, that might be revenue distribution models, etc., data structuring, and so forth. So these ancillary services are being built by Blocksquare so that the marketplace operators, the real estate owners, and the end users all benefit from having a holistic approach to real estate tokenization infrastructure. Now, the market outlook, I never like to talk about markets, but because it's predictions that you don't know where they will go. But we see already groups like Boston Consulting Group and recently Citi Group, etc., talking about tokenization of real-world assets and where this might go. We see that the field where we're focusing on is on the intersection between free markets. Asset-backed tokenization is kind of an emerging one, while we have fintech-enabled marketplaces, which have been around for some time, and the real estate crowdfunding sector that is basically the first sector to bring real estate investments online in a non-digital way, and has grown from 2014 when it emerged until today quite substantially. This then takes us to the actual forecast of Boston Consulting Group, for instance. That's a very interesting paper to look at. You probably can find it online, just Google it, or ask within our community. I'm sure that somebody has it at hand. If not somebody from the community, somebody from our core team will definitely be able to share it with you. Here we can come back to where we are today as Blocksquare. We've tokenized only 52 million worth of real estate. I don't think that's a huge number so far. And that's distributed across 57 marketplace properties that are located in a bit more than 10 countries. So far, we have 7 marketplace operators that we work with. Some of them are pre-launch, some of them already started building up their communities. Some of them will shortly, you'll be able to see maybe also offerings on those marketplaces. And there's a new product that we're building and launching this year called Neo Brokerages. And I think we need to have like a blockchain, a separate blockchain about it. But essentially what we will be doing it with this is potentially turning any aspiring or any YouTube or TikTok social media influencer into being an analyst for tokenized real estate and being incentivized to perform such record such videos and share that information and actually look into assets that are being tokenized. Like I said, Blocksquare, we started a couple of years back, officially in 2018. The idea itself, I think it started emerging in our heads somewhere in 2017 when we discovered this recipe of how real estate value could be transferred on-chain. And by the way, we had different legal models throughout these years. I think we modeled out 3 different models that we tested on the market. And the first 2 that we had found a lot of hesitation by real estate owners because they required them to transfer the whole title onto a new legal entity, or it required them to get shareholders into their legal entity or change the incorporation documents of the legal entity where shares would be tokenized. This then obviously triggered a lot of complications when it comes to regulation, because this would mean that shares of a company are being tokenized, and this means that all the regulation just comes into the mix, and it becomes very, very complicated to maintain and kind of even develop that type of infrastructure that enables this. So the model that we have today is very scalable. It's applicable in most jurisdictions around the world. It allows as well to secure the title in the land registry, potentially by the marketplace operator, and it just works. Where we see the most need for the infrastructure that Blocksquare provides, it's in small to medium enterprises that have a footing in the markets where they're present, and they have previously done deals, and they will do deals in the future, and they will want to tap into Web3 with partnering with an infrastructure provider like us. We already see there's some who are kind of future oriented, that see the benefits of this automation, of this transparency, this new way of doing business for them. But mostly right now, the initiatives come from experts in the real estate sector who have past experience working for maybe larger enterprises, and then say going into, saying, okay, now I want to launch a new startup. I want to launch a new venture. Obviously, this brings a lot of cost. It's hard to raise money to develop anything nearly as sophisticated as the infrastructure we bring to the table. And it makes just much, much more sense for these companies to partner with us and build on top of Blocksquare's infrastructure. Corporates, like I say, I'm always open to working with corporates. The issue there is decision-making processes are very slow. A lot of times the decision doesn't come from top down, but it tries to kind of be built up from the bottom up. And that in a corporation can be blocked many times by decision makers. So corporates, I think, will come in last, but we're open to working with any size of business. And here we come to a slide that I wanted to focus on today. And this slide basically is, let me move some graphics away so that we can take a look at the whole thing. And this is basically the operating system for tokenized real estate assets that we've built. Here you will see there's various products, various groups. From the 4 products that I mentioned earlier, I think we will see here the marketplaces platform, the tokenization protocol, Ocean Point as the liquidity engine, the ancillary services, and then we have these third-party products here. And let me run you through the whole schematic here. So what we started as Blocksquare is with the tokenization protocol. We said, let's build a smart contract system that enables tokenization of real estate and add a legal templating model to it so that it works with this. And then companies will be served or utilize this smart contract system either by creating their own APIs on top of the smart contract system or using our own APIs, which then make it a bit easier because there's also connectivity to our backend, which can manages the private data of the end users, obviously. What we learned from the market is that this is not nearly enough. Unfortunately, most real estate businesses that do have quality assets they can work with don't have the capabilities of building something on top of it. And that's what moved us to the second product, which is the marketplaces platform. Instead of building a marketplace that just Blocksquare could use, we saw there is a need on the market for white-labeled products. Why? Because an entrepreneur who wants to build a tokenized real estate marketplace in London, they want to build their own brand on top of it. And they might be open to collaborate with an infrastructure provider like Blocksquare and even have it powered by Blocksquare. That's fine with them. But they are building their own brand. They're building their own business. And that business is going to grow in value. Why? Because it's going to connect people to real estate deals. And it's going to create a certain methodology of inducing trust within real estate owners as well as end user investors. And here we built this marketplaces platform where this year we're kind of rolling out of this platform as well this new brokerage network. And this is like in combination with the tokenization protocol, it's a no coding type of offer where a company can say, I want to launch this tomorrow. They can connect with us and we can go as fast as 2 weeks, but probably even faster when required. Usually we settle on something like a month time to deliver a marketplace, but we are increasing our capability of launching new marketplaces as we speak. And here we saw that this setup, it's amazing. It has marketplaces which have a stable coin as the centerpiece of transactability. They enable as well fiat transactions for a marketplace operator. But what they do not have is an open secondary market. They have struggle. They will not struggle, but they will have a limitation. If there's 5,000 users, only 5,000 users can potentially purchase into deals that have been listed on the marketplace. And here enters our liquidity engine, Ocean Point. Ocean Point, what it is being built to do is to aggregate value of tokenized real estate under a common denominator. We call it point tokens. These points correlate to $1 value of tokenized real estate that is being owned by Ocean Point at that moment of time, but not necessarily. So it's not a stable coin. But it works, it has this redeemability. So points can always be redeemed for real estate tokens and vice versa. And these points as aggregated value, it's much easier to find liquidity in DeFi for this type of coin. Why? There's no KYC requirements. It can flow between wallets, just like any type of crypto. And what it does is enables liquidity providers to provide liquidity for points against other stablecoins, creating more liquidity for point tokens and effectively enabling marketplaces to add a new functionality, or us to add a new functionality to these marketplaces, which is a trade between an end user and a protocol instead of an end user and an end user, which means that now we have a protocol that could at any time purchase a position in an asset and then resell it back to another market user on that marketplace. And this creates an asynchronicity between the timing of somebody selling and somebody buying. So it kind of works when similarly to liquidity pools with Uniswap, for instance, but in a bit different, technologically speaking, in a bit different way. Now, if you imagine points then having a lot of liquidity on Uniswap pools and being incentivized to provide that liquidity from the revenues that are being generated by the tokenized assets that OceanPoint owns, that creates like a sustainable liquidity engine for tokenized real estate. And here, I think we can then stop on Blocksquare, and we can take a look a bit more on OceanPoint as such. So just to recap, we have this marketplaces platform where entrepreneurs can launch in weeks without any coding. We have this tokenization protocol where an issuer, a real estate owner, can issue up to 100,000 tokens for any real estate asset. This enables owners to partially or fully tokenize their individual real estate properties. And it gives them flexibility to tokenize, let's say, 10%, 5%, 20%, 50, 170% of the capital stack of that investment, of that real estate asset. This means that the other part of the capital stack that's not tokenized is filled with traditional means of financing, like traditional debt or traditional equity. And this gives, like I said, a solution for real estate owners to find an additional source of liquidity by tokenizing real estate, and not necessarily for just fundraising purposes, but as well for de-risking their assets, having more flexibility on the market, and being able to grow larger portfolios in the end that they manage, because that's where they are capturing value in the real estate market. And this takes us then to our liquidity engine, OceanPoint, which is built as an open-end DAO. What does this actually mean? It means that even though there's a limited amount of BST tokens that are available, there's the potential for anybody to join that DAO and be part of it. And the DAO itself, through governance, has the ability to shape OceanPoint as it progresses. Once we get to the version 1.0, our plan is to have a fully decentrally governed protocol that works just like it should, just like planned, and enables liquidity to be kind of connected, DeFi liquidity to be connected to any tokenized real estate asset or real estate asset that was tokenized through Blocksquare system. And the reason for why this matters, or one part is the real estate sector or the real estate market. We have there numerous reasons for real estate to be tokenized. But on the other side, why would DeFi care about real world assets like real estate? Is because it doesn't have any exposure right now, not really, to real estate as a market. And this is quite important because when you look at the traditional banking sector, most of its portfolio is composed out of loans for some kind of real estate asset, whether that's commercial or residential or a real estate development project. Real estate is the driving force behind money markets in the real world. And if DeFi doesn't have anything to do with real estate, it will always struggle to catch up. So our view here is that creating a model that facilitates that transfer to happen efficiently is paramount to the development of DeFi as an ecosystem and Web3. And this solution that we built, it joins or comes in to, as I explained before, and this slide kind of wants to sum it up for everybody watching this. By the way, I will ask our team to share this deck within Discord. So anybody who's not in Discord yet, come there and you will be able to access this information so that we can then maybe talk about it in the next AMA on Discord planned, I think, for next week, Wednesday. And this essentially is kind of a schematic of how the whole thing works. We have real estate assets, we have a value aggregator token, we have liquidity mining as a means for creating long-term liquidity, and then we have a reward system that kind of incentivizes people to invest in real estate in a bit different way, not necessarily by directly investing into tokens that have obviously a bit lower liquidity levels, but maybe investing into points and BST and being able to invest without KYC requirements, without those regulatory confinements that come when you want to own directly real estate through the purchase of token that's directly linked to a real estate asset backing it. So this is a recap of our product. We launched last year on the 22nd of February, 2022, with our governance pool. Our governance pool today has, I believe, around 4 million worth of BST that is being staked. When you stake with our governance pool, what happens is you receive back a token called SBST or staked BST, and that token itself is the governance token for our DAO. Currently, our DAO is governed by a governance board where 2 members of the team are within that board. It's Victor and myself. There's 2 advisors, Achim and Simon. And there's 2 members of our community, Cryptovium and Sasho F. And we are planning to expand the position of seats from the community in the future for the governance board to grow and be more and more governed by the community of appointed representatives by SBST holders, which might come through a more demographic approach. This elections, let's say, through a vote on, for instance, Snapshot with SBST holders. After the governance pool, we introduced another product where our goal was to find an incentive that is not liquidity for real estate owners to tokenize their real estate assets. And we found that in an approach of staking real estate to earn crypto. And by earning crypto, right now, this means BST. How are we able to do that? Because when we launched Ocean Point, we put 40 million, we designed 40 million BST to be distributed to on a fixed monthly basis of 500K BST per month to various pool participants. And at the beginning, there was 250K being dropped into the real estate staking pool for real estate owners. And now it has, with the introduction of the liquidity pool, it has been halved to 125,000 BST per month. And this brings us to the version 03, which is the latest that is available on mainnet. And this is to stake liquidity and earning BST. Right now, there's 50% of the 500K per month being dropped there. So the APYs are quite high. Obviously, that's to compensate for risk, and with the growth that's happening as well, to compensate any impermanent loss potentially that has incurred to those providing liquidity. We're adding more and more liquidity as we grow. We don't want to have it too much centralized. Right now, it's in great levels. I think more than 80% of the liquidity provided on Ocean Point comes from the community. And the beauty of it is that you can select a commitment up to a year to lock in your liquidity. So this liquidity has expiration dates, and we hope that it can stay as a long-term liquidity engine that can also serve the liquidity pools when we introduce points in the future. We're running past the 40th minute, so I will start slowly concluding my presentation. There's a couple more slides, but I believe that those slides might we can basically even skip them for today. I think this is kind of a nice slide outlining the overview of how the whole system is composed and how the token flows throughout the system. So something that I really encourage anybody to look into as well. And the token metrics, there's a post that I did on Twitter for those who want to are not into reading docs, that kind of outlines how the token metrics or the tokenomics, I would say, of BST kind of work. And I think that's also quite interesting for everybody to take a look. So thank you, everybody, for your time today. I believe, I hope it was an interesting session for everybody who's just discovering Blocksquare and just kind of dipping their toes, I would say. We are always available on Telegram, Discord. If we're not available, somebody from our community is. And we have some very valuable core pillars of our community who really know inside out what we've been doing for the past years, building up Blocksquare and Ocean Point. Thank you again, and see you next week.